20. And I had the verses typed out up here for you, but forget that. You'll recognize the story, and you'll recognize the verses. They're not cryptic like from the book of Numbers or something, but I might even mention Numbers. We're approaching Easter, which is coming up when? 4th of April. That's the first Sunday in April, and then the first Monday in April, which will be April the 5th. For those 4 Monday nights, I thought there were 5, there are 4, I'm teaching on angels. 6:30 each Monday night for 1 month. Monday the 5th, and right on down. So 4 Monday nights, we'll be teaching on angels. You may be surprised at their role in your life. And we don't pray to them, but we talk to them. We know that God is in charge of them. Amen. So it doesn't hurt to ask God to send some your way. Amen. In the 19th chapter of John, Pilate has a dilemma. He has on his hands a wonderful individual, and he knows that. He has an angry mob of people in front of him, a nation that he's in charge of. They're called the Jews. They're referred to as Israelites. They spent 430 years as slaves in Egypt. After Joseph was sold into slavery, Israel sold their dreamer. And then they had to go, Israel sold their dreamer. Then they had to go to Egypt to find out the dream. After being in Egypt for about 2 decades, Israel was starving because the man who understood the dream about the famine was in Egypt. And so he sent for his family. And they came under good pretenses, thinking everything's going well. Joseph, Jacob's boy. And what a tragedy that for 2 decades, his brothers fed his father a lie, saying that a wild beast had eaten Jacob's beloved boy. And in a back closet somewhere in the hut where Jacob lived was a bloody coat belonging to his boy. And ever so often that daddy would go back there and look in the closet, and there hung the coat of many colors, drenched in blood, dried and darkened. When he first heard about it, the Bible said he fainted. He fell to the floor, a grown man, heart broken. He could not be consoled. And all the while, 11 boys knew the truth and wouldn't tell it to set their daddy free from his grief. And they carried that lie until Joseph was discovered. And then he revealed himself. And following that, loving his family and forgiving his brothers. Not an easy task. Forgiveness is not easy. It's necessary. Because Jesus said, if you do not from your heart forgive, He will not forgive you. And none of us are afforded the luxury of carrying a grudge. You've been wronged. I'll give you that. But you can't carry that, because you can't ask a holy God to forgive you of your failures when you won't forgive others of theirs. And that, my friend, is probably the worst scourge on Christianity that causes the world to not want what we've got, because they see an attitude in us, an arrogance, an unforgiveness, and so they decide that they might be just as well off as we are. So it's hard to do, but it must be done. You must forgive. So if I said that to anybody today, I've been wrong before, but I'm not carrying it anymore. I had one guy who wronged me. It took me years to get over it, but I got over it. And now I don't know anybody that I haven't forgiven. And if you wrong me, I'm getting good at it. I think as time goes on, you get better at it, okay? Especially when you get older, you realize, hey, I may not have enough time to carry a grudge. I better get rid of this one. So Joseph forgave them, and then he moved all of his family down there, and he had favor. Talk about politics. Look, it's a sine wave. You may not like who's president now. You might have liked who was, and you might have liked who's coming, but it's a sine wave. And the Bible said a new Pharaoh. The Pharaoh that was there when Joseph was there loved Joseph, loved his family. Move him down here. Bring him on down here. But when he died, things changed. And a new Pharaoh didn't like them. And the next thing you know is they're building pyramids and making bricks with straw and mud, and life is rough. 430 years of that. It's a long time. That book was written 1,800 years before the crucifixion. Remember that number. 1,800 years before. That was Joseph's time before Jesus was born. David wrote his Psalms 1,400 years before Jesus was born. Remember that. Numbers 1,400 years before Jesus was born, because I'm going to mention a verse from those 3 chapters today, and I want you to understand that they were written millenniums before Jesus was ever born and before there was ever a cross. So Israel is now in servitude, and Pilate has a dilemma. I've got this good man in front of me, and they want to kill him, and I know he doesn't deserve to die, but I can't bring myself politically to mess up my future here. Mary, you're going to identify with some of this. The pressure that was put on him. And so he brought Jesus out after he'd been mistreated all night long. He'd been in an all-night prayer meeting on Thursday night. He's been drugged from pillar to post, from Caiaphas to Herod and to the high priest, and back and forth, a rope around his neck like an animal. Slapped, beaten, blindfolded. Tell us who it is that's hitting you now. I mean, it was horrible. It was horrible. He's weak. He's tired. He's thirsty. He's hungry. He's hurting. Pilate thinks he's had enough. And he offers to release him. He uses the word, I'm going to release him. I don't see anything wrong. And they said, if you do that, you are no friend of Caesar, as if they were. The Romans had them in slavery. They only got to have church because Rome said they could. You're no friend of Caesar. And so he thinks, what if they tell Caesar? Okay, he said, then I'm giving him to you. And they said, but we don't have it. He's your king. I'm going to give him to you. He's your king. And then they said, we don't have any king but Caesar. Wow. Talk about blasphemous. Rome is our king. The government is our ruler. We put our faith, our hope, and our trust in the government. That's what they were saying. Not in this Jesus. Oh, by the way, where do you put yours? You don't have to answer. Just think about it. So Pilate brings him back, and I don't think my slide with my verse on it is working. Yeah, there we go. Pilate brings him back. They beat him some more, scourged him until the Bible said 40 stripes save one. It was believed that if you beat a man with 40 lashes, you would rip his bowels open and he would die. And they didn't want him to die. Not there, not then. They wanted him to suffer. And when they'd finished all of that, then they decided they would crucify him, which they did. There is a verse that I just want you to hear from John 20 that says this. John 19. Listen to this verse. When they came to Jesus, this is the Romans in chapter 19 and verse 33. When they came to Jesus, they saw that he was already dead. So they did not break his legs. Now they broke the legs of the man on this side. They broke the legs of the man on that side. But Jesus in the middle, they came up to him, and I'll tell you why they never broke his legs. Now you know they broke their legs so they would go ahead and die, because they would push up. You generally suffocated. And they wanted, look, we got to get on with life. These people need to go ahead and die. So be supper time here in a little bit. I'm supposed to meet somebody for dinner, you know. So they break their legs so they couldn't raise themselves up anymore. But it's not because he was already dead. That's not why they didn't break his legs. Listen to this. This comes from Psalms 34, written 1,400 years before this cross. You ready? He keepeth all of his bones, and not one of them is broken. Whew. Listen to this. This comes from Numbers chapter 9. Moses is telling them, kill the lamb, eat it all. But listen what he says. You shall leave none of it unto the morning, nor shall you break a bone of it, according to the law of the Passover. Say, Lamb of God. That's who he was. This lamb they were to eat. Don't you kill it and you cook it, but don't you break a bone of it. 1,400 years before the cross. Listen to this one. Exodus chapter 12. A foreigner, a hired servant, shall not eat. In one house shall it be eaten. Thou shalt carry it forth abroad out of the house. Neither shall you break a bone of it. 1,800 years before they ever came by with that big pole, breaking his legs and breaking his legs. But they couldn't do it. Because God is still on the throne. He's been in charge from day one. Since before there was a day one. Not a bone will be broken. Now he's buried. And on the first day of the week, he's drug around Thursday night. He's buried on Friday, Saturday, Sunday morning with the way we count time, okay? Here is the verse. On the first day of the week, this comes from John chapter 20 and the very first verse. On the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene comes to the tomb. I'm going to paraphrase, but it's all right here. It is dark. So she's got up really early. I want to speak just a few more moments about Mary Magdalene and her love for Jesus Christ. Not an erotic love, a love that he never returned in kind, I might add. The Bible said marriage is I forgot the word it used, but it says the bed is undefiled and marriage is, in other words, it's good. Not everybody gets married, but most of us do. Because we want a companion. We don't always want them. Sometimes we come home and we say, what did I do? What have I done? Sometimes the husband calls and says, I'm going to work late, and we say, thank God. The woman says, thank God. But still we marry, because there's something about Adam. When God made him, he had his pet dog, and he had the long-necked giraffe and the big trunk of the elephant, and the lion and the lamb were around, and the leopard with its spots, and it was beautiful, and he had the garden, but he was kind of moping around. And the Lord said, something's wrong. And they talked. He said, I don't know. I can't put my finger on it. But I just kind of feel incomplete. And the Lord said, and listen, this is not fair, I don't think, for a man to go to sleep single and wake up married. That just doesn't seem fair to me, you know. Wasn't he voting on that? So he gets this companion. And so it is normal and natural. People marry, but Jesus didn't. But Mary Magdalene, I believe, there was a movie going on years ago. I don't know what this was, 70s maybe, The Last Temptation of Christ. And it was sort of an erotic movie. I didn't watch it, but I know about it. I've read about it. It was supposed to be that Mary Magdalene was there, as she was one of several. There were three Marys there. Mary, the wife of Cleopas, Mary Magdalene, and Mary, the mother of Jesus. Salome. There were several women at the cross. A distance, the Bible said they were afar off from the cross. But they were close enough they could see. I'm sure there was a big crowd, and they got as close as they could. And this particular Mary, Magdalene, Mary of Magdala, she was crying uncontrollably. You don't have to believe what I'm postulating here. It doesn't change the Word of God. It doesn't change the message I'm bringing here. But I think she loved Jesus, perhaps in a way that a woman might love a man. And that's normal. Jesus was a Jewish male. The Bible said he was in all points. Say tempted. He was in all points tempted like we are, but he did not sin. He came with a bigger mission than to marry and have children. Listen, marriage and a family, that's two wonderful things. And I think he would love to have had that. As a normal Jewish male, I think he simply said, I have come to do the will of my Father. So here was God in a body, and the flesh, the body that God lived in, that had normal feelings, was willing to forego those feelings in order to accomplish a greater purpose, which was to do what? See to it that you and I were saved from eternal destruction. Because we couldn't pay for our own griminess. We couldn't pay for our own willful sinfulness. Only one sacrifice could do that. You've read about all those sacrifices, that bloody Old Testament. Every one of them hearken to this. We lack an appreciation for this. We take this for granted. My son still preached the best sermon I've ever heard on sacrifices, as he described all the blood splatter and the smell and the blood all over the priests as they split one animal's neck after another, the horrible mess, what the gory horribleness of it there in the sacrificial lambs being brought, the pigeons, the doves, the goats, the rams, and just one throat split after another, puddles of blood, the smell of burning flesh. It was nothing pretty about it. But it was for me. And it was for you, and it was for a world that was lost and wrapped up in itself. She came that morning. She missed him so. She was crushed. She was broken. She stood there at the cross with the others. But the Bible makes it clear that her grief was inconsolable. And she got to the tomb and noticed the stone was gone. It's still dark. She gets there and she looks in and her heart's racing. And you know, I think Micah said something about trying to pin the insects through the tears, but just picture this. Picture this inconsolable heaving, weeping, writhing, shoulders shaking, looking in. This one that she knew. See, he had cast demons out of her life. You know what that's like? To not be in charge of yourself, to not be able to live a normal life because demons from the pits of hell have inhabited your heart and your body, and they're taking you towards a hell at a breakneck speed. And that was her life until he came and he met her that day, and he knew what she needed. God has given to us more times than once what we needed instead of what we wanted. Come down from there if you are who you say you are. Oh, how I'd love to, but I have to stay here. Because it's better for you that I stay than that I come down. And so he just looked at her that day. I'm not sure how it happened, when it happened, but he just told the demons, get out, leave her alone. And suddenly her life that had been twisted and mangled, and her nervous wreck, her addictions, her demons, all of a sudden she finds herself calm. She hears the birds singing now. She doesn't mind to go through life. She'd thought about ending it. She'd thought, what a horrible torment. What a way to live. But now, and she knew he had done it. She wasn't sure who he was, but she knew he had done it. And now she followed him. And there was something about him she loved. And she ran back to Peter and John. She ran. She ran in the room where they were, because they weren't leaving the house because they were frightened. And she said, they've moved him. They've moved him, and I don't know where they've put him. Can you make that one change for me, Micah? There. So Peter and John jump up, and they take off running to the tomb. Who outrun who?
Peter was faster.
John was faster. Close.
Peter went in, though, right?
Peter went in.
So he won.
Impetuous Peter, the guy who said, when Jesus got ready to wash his feet, he said, you're not washing my feet, I ought to wash yours. Jesus said, if I don't wash your feet, you can't have anything to do with me. Oh, he said, then wash my whole body. That's what he said. Impetuous, shifting sands turned into a rock that day when Jesus said, thou art Peter, and upon this revelation, you know who I am. On this revelation, you're the one who knows that I'm the Son of God. And I'll build a church on that revelation. He got there. John is stooping down, looking in. He's dumbfounded. Peter doesn't stop, just goes in. And when John sees Peter goes in, doesn't drop dead, then John goes in. And the Bible said the napkin that Jesus had had around his head was folded up. And the clothes that had been wound around him, the linens, one winding after another. You know, if you're going to steal a body, you're not going to go through all of that, are you? you're going to want to steal it and get out of there. They said his body had been stolen. No, he got up. He got up. He said, get this off of me. He folded it up and laid it over here. Then he folded up the napkin and laid it over there in another spot. And then out of the way, stone, and here he came. And she got there. And she was brokenhearted. And she said, he's gone, and I don't know where they've taken him. And I miss him. I miss him. Do you? Can you move that one from him, Micah? The Bible said she stayed outside, stooped down, looked in, weeping, and she saw 2 angels in white. And they said to her, why are you crying? And she said, they've taken him away. The one I love, they've taken him away, and I can't find him. Say that with me. I can't find him. I wonder, and I'm finished. I wish we were as upset as she was when she couldn't find him. You know, Thomas wasn't present when Jesus went into the room where the other disciples were and showed himself to them, and Thomas was absent. And he never got to see Jesus for 8 more days. They had what they call the Last Supper. Da Vinci painted that in the late 1400s. We've eaten together at your house. I've eaten with Robbie and Katie Sue. I've not eaten with all of you. I'm still waiting for some. But would have really been something if the last time that we were at your house, you made that wonderful white potato soup like my mom makes, and those fresh hot rolls and butter. What are y'all having today? But what if we had known, sitting there around the table, my brothers and myself and you all, that was the last meal we would eat? We would have lingered. We would have wept. We would have hugged each other's neck. We wouldn't have wanted to turn loose. When I sat there with you and Lulabelle around the table, what if I had known this is the last meal that we'll have together? What if we would miss him like she missed him? What if when we couldn't find him, if we'd make sure, unlike Thomas, that we wouldn't be 8 days late? Well, I'm going to church today. I need to find Jesus. I'm going to be there. I've been missing him all week. I've been fighting the crowd. I've been fighting COVID. I've been fighting the job. I've been dealing with this and that. I need Jesus. I miss him. She said, just tell me where he is. I'll go get him. I miss him. I'm crying over it. I miss him so much. Jesus knew how much she loved him. He even said to her, he said, don't grab me. Don't hang on to me. I know you want to hug me. And frankly, if we knew Jesus, a man of like passions as we are, may have wanted to, at times to hug her, because he was a normal Jewish male and he cared about her, cared so much about her. She's the first one he appeared to, not his mother, not Peter and John, not the other apostles, not his brothers or his sisters. First person that he appeared to and talked with and met was that one who loved him so much, who missed him so much. I wish when we came to the house of God that we would come so hungry, so anxious, so in love with him that we'd walk through the doors like Miss Ida did the very first time she walked through this door, and she shuddered and she said, "Oh, I feel the Spirit of God in this place." We need the Lord. If he's been absent from your life, if you strayed away, I hope you're missing him enough that you would say, "I want to find him." He said, "I'll be something better to you than a husband. I'll be a Savior." That's better. The last temptation said that he hung on the cross and had visions of a love affair with her. No. His last temptation was one of his final sayings, one of his 7 final sayings. And he said, "I'm thirsty. I'm thirsty." You do know he did this for you, don't you? You haven't forgotten that, have you? You do know it was for you. Thirsty. It was the custom of the Romans to give wine mixed with some bitterness, frankincense or myrrh. In his case, they gave him they gave him vinegar and gall. Roman centurions may have urinated in a flask, mixed it with vinegar, soaked a sponge. "I'm thirsty." Put it on a stick, lifted it up to his burning lips, swollen face, blood dried and caked. Eyes could barely pull open. Satan and every imp of hell in attendance. The audience in the spiritual world was unbelievable. Cheering. Satan, one last try. He's thirsty. Let's see if he'll take something to alleviate the pain. It touched his lips. You lost again, devil. He refused. Jesus had said hours before, when he broke bread and drank from the wine with his disciples, he said, "Now, I won't drink this again until you and I drink it in the kingdom." And the devil said, "Put it on a sponge. We'll make a liar out of him. He's in enough pain now. He'll suck on that sponge." No. And the devil lost again. You do know he did that for you. So I came today because I miss him. I just want him to be around all the time. I want to be around him. I love being around people who love him. I feel like when I hug somebody who loves Jesus, I'm hugging Jesus. When I'm dead and gone and you hug somebody I love, you're hugging me. I want to know if you would come today and renew your love for Jesus Christ. And if by chance you have not made a decision to be a follower of His, this is your moment. This is your moment. Will you stand, please? I just want you to close your eyes, and I just want you to bow your head, and I want anyone, I don't care if you've known Jesus all your life, but if you're feeling like you'd like to hug Him today, be closer to Him. If you're missing Him, if you're saying, gee, I'd like to be closer, I'd like to touch Him, I'd like to have Him in my life in a greater way, then I'm asking you to come stand. I'm already up here. I'm asking you to come on up here with me and stand here and let me pray with you, and we'll pray together, and we will tell God how much we miss Him, how much we love Him, and how much we want Him in our life. Please come. Please come. Please come. Take your mate by the hand, take your child by the hand, take your friend by the hand, and just come. Oh, Jesus. Now, those of you who have come, I want you to do this. I want you to lift your eyes up, and I want you to look at this cross. And I want you to say these words with me. Jesus, I miss you. I love you. I want to be close to you.